Hey guys, this is Paul once again from Bluray Junkies, and today we start our very first topic episode. This episode is going to be all about the differences between movie critics and fans, and really, do critics really have a valid reason of even being around anymore? We're also going to be discussing Rotten Tomatoes. Alright, so let's get into our first topic video about movie criticism. What do these three reviews have in common? Well, if you haven't guessed yet, they were by a very respectable, highly respectable film critic, Roger Ebert. Now, we are in no way knocking Roger Ebert. He's a very influential, very inspiring critic. So what's the point? Well, the point is, the reason why we show this is that even highly respected critics can give poor reviews to movies that were very good, or even great reviews to very bad movies. So why is that? And should we take a lesson from this as not to trust critics? Well, first of all, we have to remember critics are just like us. We're all people. We all put on that pants one leg at a time, and we all have emotions. And that's what movies are meant to do, affect our emotions. And everyone is different. What might be a very nostalgic or even a very dramatic movie to one person may not be to another. And we all know what happens when we hear that a special movie is being made that we have all long anticipated and wanted to see. We all start getting our expectations start getting high. We start expecting a lot from this certain movie because we've been wanting this movie for such a long time. Well, critics can also get wrapped up in that hype too. Perfect example, Batman vs. Superman. And everybody thought, this is going to be the most amazing superhero movie we will ever see. Finally, we get to see on the big screen Batman versus Superman. And yes, even a lot of critics, highly respectable critics, fell into that hype. They expected and looked forward to it just as much as we did. Also think of this, critics watch hundreds of movies a year. It's their job. This is what they are paid to do. And they more than likely see way more movie than you or I or the average person does. Now, because of that, a critic will start picking up on certain things here and there that us as the average movie goer may not pick up because they see the type of filmmaking over and over and over again. Have you ever done something that you're very good at and you love doing it? You've made it your job in life to do because you love it so much. For example, a writer. They know how to compose a story. They know what works, what doesn't work to create and make this story. Well, an average person that isn't a writer but yet still writes won't even think about those techniques. And that's because it's not their job. They don't do this every single day. So again, film critics are the same way. It is also their job to find faults in movies. So with that in mind, I do think some critics try to nitpick on flaws a little too much and maybe a little harsher on it than you or I would be. And because of that, they gave it a bad review. Even though some may still like it, they still gave it a poor review because of all the different flaws and the different sloppiness throughout the movie. Now, I'm not saying this is with every bad review, but there are definitely some instances where they have no choice but to give a yay or a nay review, such as with Rotten Tomatoes. Again, we will be getting more into the inner workings of Rotten Tomatoes in our next video, part 2. So if you haven't subscribed yet, definitely subscribe now so you can be notified when that will be up. So I've also found that there are two different types of people when it comes to viewpoints from movie critics. There's this person.
I kind of wanted to watch this movie, but the critics are only giving it 8%. You know, I don't care. Critics don't always know. A lot of times the critics say one thing and the movie's really good, so I'm going to give it a try and go anyway.
Or you have this type of person.
Yeah, this makes me mad, because even though the critics say it's not good, I want to see it. You know what? I better not go see this movie because the critics are really making it sound horrible. I'll just go see something else.
So were any one of those examples right or wrong? Well, no, not necessarily. It just depends on how people view critics. Now, I've always said critics are important, which we'll get more into shortly. But don't only go see a movie based if a critic gives it a good review. Imagine you haven't had ice cream for months, or even years, and your favorite ice cream is strawberry. I'm going to give in, I'm going to splurge, I'm going to have the strawberry ice cream. It's my favorite type of ice cream. I'm going to sit back and enjoy myself. So you head to the store, you get to the ice cream aisle. When someone comes around and tells you, you don't want strawberry, it doesn't taste good, it's not made very well, vanilla is what you want. Forget about strawberry, get vanilla, it's the best. Or would you allow someone to tell you that, you know what, country music is the only good music out there. Rock and roll sucks. Only listen to country music. Would you listen to them? Well, of course not. That's absurd because you have your own views. Everybody is different. And that may not be always agreeable with someone else's. But it's your taste. So then why would you allow someone, a stranger, someone you've never met before, tell you what you should and should not see? Again, this is unhealthy to do. You may come out of a movie loving it when the critics hated it. Or you may come out hating a movie when a critic loved it. And critics are not always right on their reviews. Great example here. Critics loathed Blade Runner and The Shining when it first came out. And now they are classics. They're on AFI's greatest movies that were ever made list. And the same goes with movies that critics loved. There's a movie that critics loved a few years back, Crash. It was initially beloved by critics. It was on everybody's top 10 list. It won numerous awards, even the Critics' Choice Award it won for Best Picture. And now look at it. Now, of course, this isn't with every movie, and I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to critic reviews. I enjoy watching them. I enjoy listening to them myself. I don't have a problem with it, and I don't really let it affect me in my decision making. But these are just a few examples of why we shouldn't put 100% trust in movie critics. We shouldn't avoid a movie just because he or she gave it a poor review. Now again, guys, I'm not bashing on critics. Critics do have their place. There's a lot of critics out there that I really respect. This is in no way a video about bashing on critics. But after all that I said, the question arises, why should we listen to critics? Or better yet, the question is, why are movie critics still held valuable? Well, guys, put on your history hats because we're going to have a little history lesson here. Over 100 years ago, W.G. Faulkner in London began a regular column about movies. Now, this was really around when movies were really just starting to get popular. And during this, he thought to himself, you know, I'm going to make news about movies. And he started a small column about movies. The reason? Well, it wasn't to use the media as an outlet for bashing movies, but the point of it was to make the public aware of what movies are coming out. And he was credited as the first official film critic. And this took off. People loved it. People turned to the movie section before they read the other news. And in time, the studios started making movies to please the public because they started listening, hey, you know what? These people are saying this about the movie, maybe we should just change a few things here and there and give them what they want. Now we're going to fast forward to modern times, to present day. We see that movie critics are everywhere. They're scattered around like little ants. And who wouldn't want to be a movie critic? I mean, you're watching movies every day, and you talk about them, and you're getting paid for it. Heck yeah, I'm on board. Where do I sign? I want that job. But it's not just about that. Movie critics also help the movie industry, as I said. How? Well, I'm glad you asked. Movie critics help boost awareness of movies. Very popular movie right now is Green Room. This was made in 2014, was released in 2015, and it grew and grew not because of advertising, because they really didn't have any money or budget for advertising, but because it made its way through film festivals and it got noticed and picked up for distribution. Well, who goes to film festivals? The majority are critics. So movie critics are the ones who got the word out. They loved it and gave it good reviews and talked about it and spread it around. And guess what happened? It was picked up for distribution by a studio. It's most likely playing in your local theater today. And I'm not just talking about Green Room. There's a smaller independent movie that came out just a couple months ago, Midnight Special. Fantastic movie. However, I probably would have never seen it if it wasn't for critics praising the movie, and therefore my local theater played it. Now going back to what I said earlier about film critics where they may give it a poor review, but in turn they also did like it. It was a middle area there, a gray area. One example of this I can think of right now is with Chris Stuckmann's review of Batman vs. Superman. In his YouTube review, which I'll leave the link down below in the description so you guys can check it out, he didn't give Batman vs. Superman a glowing, great, spectacular review as he had hoped he would have. He mentioned it was sloppy, had a lot of issues, had a lot of flaws with it. There was things in it that he hated, but also he said he had fun watching it. There were a lot of aspects that he did like about it, and he said that he would recommend to someone to go in to see it in the theater. Just because he gave it a Rotten Tomato rating doesn't mean he hated the movie. This isn't just Batman vs. Superman. That's just an example that just recently happened. Okay guys, so what's the point here? Why did we decide to make this video? Well, we've really been working on this video for quite a while. We've been working on the concept for a very long time. And it's really because, like you, we love movies. There's absolutely nothing like walking into a movie theater, sitting down, and looking at the big screen. People start pouring into the auditorium, the lights go down. Whatever the type of movie it is, they're all there for one reason. That's to be entertained and to just take a breather from life. And that's exactly what movies are meant to do. They're meant to transport us into a whole new reality where anything that can be imagined exists. And movie critics are a big part of that experience. Again, they help catapult many of these smaller, great films to the forefront that without them, many of us probably wouldn't hear of. So guys, in the end, critics are helpful. They bring great insight into not just movies, but the whole industry itself. You may not always agree with them, but that's the charm of it all, isn't it? We live in a place where people can express their own opinions, have their own viewpoints. And that's really a very special thing to have. That freedom to be able to say, you know what? I didn't like this movie because of this reason. I like this movie because of this reason. If you want to see a movie, awesome, great. Go see it. And then decide for yourself if you agree or disagree with what the critic said. But don't kick them in the nuts about it. Alright guys, so I've gone long enough on this subject. Now I'm handing it over to you. Share your thoughts, ideas on this subject. How do you feel about movie criticism, movie critics? Let us know what you think. Let's start a dialogue here and discuss. As always guys, thanks so much for watching. Thank you so much for all your support. Do us a favor and hit that like button down below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel for new content and videos. Make sure that you stick around for our part 2 video of Rotten Tomatoes and how it works. So definitely guys, if you haven't done so already, subscribe so you can be notified when that's up. As always guys, thanks so much for watching and for your support. Please do us a favor and hit that like button down below and the subscribe button for new content and videos. And we'll see you in the future.